I walked in, I turned the corner, and the leader of the council was there. David, would you like a coffee? Well, thank you very much. I thought that was a pretty poor greeting. And then you came up, Madam Mayor, and pushed me all the way down the side of, and sat me on the end of the front row, and my consort was still 3 rows back. Now, how come that worked out? How come that councillors from Protestant, and I have to say, Conservatives, are sitting right in the middle in the front? Now, that is not protocol, that is not procedure. You know that. And I think it was very poor of you to treat me with no respect whatsoever. And this is not good for the town council. Secondly, I raised a naval flag, Merchant Navy flag in red a few weeks ago. You turned up your chamber, Madam Mayor, and you had no right to do so. You were invited as a borough councillor, but you were not requested to actually come as mayor of Stapleford. Now, I'm talking here about procedures, and I'm talking about protocol, and it has to change. That's all I've got to say about it.
Well, thank you for your input. I certainly speak to Brian Henry about what he posts on. I will certainly speak to him when I see him on Sunday. When I was invited to the flag raising, I was told to wear my chain by the civic
A
office.
point of order, Madam Mayor, you weren't. You asked for the civic office walking up the stairs. I was walking behind. You don't mind me wearing my chain, do you? And the civic office will actually sign a paper to say that fact. So that, you're out of order.
I'm not prepared to discuss it with you, David, around this table. We have other matters to discuss.
I'm prepared to,
Well, yes.
for the simple reason is that we
Made that quite clear.
have
So can we move on, please?
procedure and protocol. Disgraceful.
Item 6. Do we have any members of the public?
Not seeing. Not there yet.
Do you want to?
Item 7.
Yeah. So I want reports from borough and county councillors, please. So any borough councillors or county councillors would like to provide an update, please, to the town council on matters affecting the town.
I don't know the procedure. Shall I go first? Anyway.
Well, there we must.
Anyway, we've got it's Christmas, isn't it? So we might as well make it more friendly. Right. Anyway, just a quick one. On the buses, I'd like to thank everybody that sorted the petition out, Councillor McRae and everyone else. I think there was 1,431 off the top of my head. I might be wrong with that. Well, that was well done. Perhaps if we had got a bit more, we could have probably hit about 3,500, to be honest, which would have made the county stand up even more. But on that, they are looking into improving the bus services, and we'll get a report back in March and April. Because obviously they didn't know what the funding would be in the October mini statement, but they're working towards doing what the best they can with the budget they can. Right? We've asked for a number of things, myself and John. Right, one was moving the OH15. Sometimes it used to go around years ago. It used to go around top shots, didn't it? Between X and Y. So we've asked them for them to make representations to Trenbottom about that. But we've also asked them, right, that there should be a regular service up to the tram because it stops at X and don't go through at Y. I mean, I don't catch buses, so I don't actually know the times, but I do know that they don't run regularly. Right, so we've asked that to be included. The other thing was that the 510 and 511 obviously needs to go around the estate as well and keep the old route, which is up by Akins Lane. So we've asked them to look into alternative routes to make sure that between the peak times when people are going to work, between 6 and say 10, right? But there's at least a service there that enables people, A, to get to the pensioners on Ewlam Lane to get up to, say, the I4, and also to have the opportunity to get up to the tram. So they're looking at a load of things that hopefully, when it comes back, then it will go out to consultation. We can all have his input. Well, that's March, April. If any of you have got any ideas, or just ring, his name's Chris Berg, right? He's the council officer that's dealing with it. He's in charge of all the bus routes throughout the county, right? So Chris is the officer that sits down, and he's been doing it 25 years, so he'll know where he's on about when it comes to buses. And then with the funding, obviously, I don't know what budget we've been given, but hopefully we should have got a bit. I mean, I mentioned as well that the I4 in particular runs 4 times, so could we ask 4 times an hour, doesn't it, Bob? As we know.
So if you want me to comment on that, sadly, at the hospital, you often see a lot of indigos, about 2, it's normally 2 indigos to an I4, but when it comes to allocating drivers, it seems that Long Eaton is more important than Stapleford. Sorry, I meant to write to Trent Barton to take this up or bring it to council. I don't know why we're negatively seeing that. The other negative thing, and it's been for years, if you look at a map of where your Robin Hood ticket will cover you.
I know, it stopped, yeah.
It's
Well,
about Stapleford, it's not.
it stops at Carlisle.
It's on an Rata. Yet, if you went on the other side of Nottingham, you'd be well included if you were in Farmington. But, yeah, don't say.
We'll say this, these are things I said to Chris anyway, right? Because myself and Richard have been on about the bus ticket that stops at Carlisle and for many years, and it's the same with the festival on West Park, isn't it? If you live inside the city, it's cheap as chips. If you're outside, which we are, we're outside the boundary, you have to pay a regular price, which is something that the city council run, which we've tried as well. So, any idea, any suggestions? Chris Burke's the man to get hold of. And he said to me, it'd be, like I say, March, April, and they'll formulate something, and then that will go out to consultation. Well, there might have been things I've missed, and John, I ain't got a clue. You can't remember everything, but there's certain things that I remember over the years that we probably have missed, but be much welcome if you all done that. The other thing is, as you're well aware, is that Mini Holland, right? I think, I personally believe that'll be a good thing. We was picked out of 12 towns in the whole of England. I think where there's been a misconception, talking to people as well, I think they all think that it's, we all get on those bikes and off we go. A lot of it isn't.
I do, I went to that meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie. But a lot of it isn't. It's a lot to do with street scenery, and if you go to the other 2 that's remaining, they'll take everything on board and listen to what you say. I mean, there was a good thing at that workshop. A lot of people come out with the old idea, not the old ideas, things that's always peed us off a bit, right? So it came out with some very good ideas. Your rat runs, we all know where they are. They're things that we want to improve as well. If we get it, and it's nearly, well, I'm led to believe, I'll quote again, and I don't like quoting, that it's a lot of money. I'm led to believe it's up to the base of nearly 30 million. Right, but that's if Stapleford gets that. Because remember, there's 10, 12 towns in England that's been put forward. We're one of the ones that has been put forward. Which, to be honest, could tie in with a lot of things that we've gone about for years. I've also asked the headmistress at Albany School, because we're supposed to, well, we do put 3 roads forward all the time for every year. I've asked that headmistress for herself and all the parents to get a petition up, word it correctly, right, about getting a zebra crossing outside Albany School. Through the talks, through the town as well, what I've said, well, mentioned, and we all have, is that if the cycle route, and I'll say if the cycle route is going out up along Pasture Road, let's incorporate the crossing there as well within the budget. So I believe a petition from that headmistress still out there. So that's basically where we're at the minute. If there's any other questions,
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the negative comments, you think we're building new canals, not building cycle routes. And obviously I'm a cyclist, so I'm a member of the CTC, Cycle Touring Club, so I suppose that's an interest, I'm sorry. But Royal College of Physicians reckon that 20,000 people die a year through bad air, most of it due to traffic fumes. So when we turn the ignition, we have to think about that. And it's particularly in the middle of towns, and this town lies in a slight valley, so fumes are concentrated. There has been a successful suit against a council down in London, in which a mother's taken the town council to court and has been successful for the death of her daughter. But that's just so sad, isn't it? But the trouble is, what that might do is make councils do a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, we've got a cycle route. Even though it goes nowhere, it goes and links nowhere else. You have to be careful, actually, does the cycle route take people to where they need to go, where they want to go? It's amazing, all the complaints, but you see the cycle route to Shipley Park well used, you can't move on that damn thing. So
you're right, Rob. Yeah, but having said that as well, the footpath between Sandy Acre Road and, as we all call it, the Cummery, which takes you onto the Knockwood Trail, that's just been done.
Yes.
So that's widened, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, there's no stair lift.
I'm not sure about the other side, though. That's Derbyshire.
That's done.
Oh, was that done as well?
That's done as well, Bob, yeah. And they've actually put some poles on the other side, because if you know yourself, as you walk, it floods down the two bottom ends.
Yes.
So what we need to look at as well on this Mini Holland is it's employing green spaces as well, where we need them.
Yes.
And I had a talk with the lady who were dealing with it, the young gal, and what we suggested was, because there's only 4 footpaths in Stapleford that are actual right of ways, which the county own. One is across Taylor's Farm, across the cemetery, right? The other one's the one, that one, Sandy Acre Road. The other one is, Mill Farm to Morebridge.
Yeah.
And the other one is gone from me now. Where's that one? Oh yeah, Mill Club over Iron Bridge. So they're the only 4.
That's a footpath.
That's a footpath, yeah, but you know what I mean, Bob. So they're the only 4 in Stapleford. That could help, because also at the top, there's Bod's Rock, as we all call it. And as we said, obviously, eventually, the cemetery will have to be extended. But Bod's Rock could be a nice place to have a green space anyway, where perhaps the Mini Holland, when you're going into them, just mention things like that. Because there's some money there to be used, so let's try and win it and use it.
Yeah.
That's me. Each their own. Thank you.
Okay, so everyone, Tim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a very quick one. There's been a lot of work, as most people know, in preparation of the update of the local plan. That's an ongoing thing. Every couple of years, it gets reviewed and any changes made. It came out recently that JPAB, which is Joint Planning Advisory Body, and Broxtowe officers and our representatives on that board have determined that there is no requirement to release any greenbelt. We've got current housing allocations that meet our needs for housing in the borough. So this is good news that I'm delighted to share with this council.
Thank you for that.
One chair. Rude of me. I'd like to welcome the 2 new councillors.
Well, I'm about to do that.
You've stolen nothing.
Well, I'll still go ahead and welcome Councillor Donna McRae and Councillor Lorraine Longford. Welcome. And that leads me on to item 8, which is appointment of vacant committee positions. So I'll read it out to you. As members will be well aware, following the 2 casual vacancies for town councillors in Stapleford North and South West wards, There were contested elections that resulted in Lorraine Longford and Donna McRae becoming town councillors for the period up to the next full town council election scheduled for the 4th of May 2023. So well done and welcome. Right, attached at Appendix 1, page 31, is the current schedule of appointments for the town council's committees, steering groups and working parties. There are currently the following vacancies. Finance and General Purposes Committee, there is 1 vacancy. HR and Policy Review Committee, 1 vacancy. Planning and Environment, 3 vacancies. Allotment Steering Group, 1 vacancy. And Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group, 1 vacancy. So I'm asking the Town Council to consider nominations to fill the above.
Sorry. I just wanted to point out that I asked to be removed off of one of these committees back in May, and I'm still down on the committee. Planning and Environment, I asked to be removed from.
Right.
So I'm sorry about changing the vacancy numbers on that committee.
That's fine. We'll take that on board. Thank you. Councillor Hallam. Pet Hallam.
Alan Davis.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, was that Councillor Hammond or Councillor Hammond Davis?
No. Sorry. Councillor Hallam.
Thank you. Yes, I'm not sure that this is an up-to-date list either, because I shook it down as the reserve for on Arts, Defence and Heritage for Richard McRae and Norman Bradley. But I don't seem to be there. So.
I've taken this from what I've got on the database, so I presume it's right. But we'll just change that. You're the reserve for, just tell me that again.
So I'm reserved on Arts, Defence and Heritage for Richard McRae and Norman Bradley.
And Councillor Tim Hallam.
Well, while the town clock's updating, and I appreciate that that this is inherited information that isn't necessarily reflective of the current situation. I don't sit on environment and planning, but that's not really why I stuck my hand up. Because I'd like to nominate Councillor Donna McRae. Or propose Councillor Donna McRae for the HR committee and Councillor Lorraine Longford for the finance committee, please, Madam Mayor.
Well, we'll come to that in a
I'll
moment.
second that, Chair.
Councillor.
I probably should know this, but if somebody isn't down here as a reserve, so for example, on Arts, Events and Heritage, there's nobody next to my name as a reserve. Does that mean if I can't make it, I can't call on somebody? Do they have to be nominated?
I think that would be the case. If asked, I would say you can't nominate somebody who's not down here.
Right, thank you.
Right, so do we have, so can
Do them individually.
I'm trying to, so first of all, let's have a look.
For some general purposes.
So I'll start with the Finance and General Purposes Committee. We have 1 vacancy.
I already said it, Madam Mayor. Do you want me to say it again?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can I propose HR? Did you say finance and general?
No, I said
Finance and general
purposes. I haven't come to HR.
Okay, that's fine. Finance and general
Right.
purposes. Can I propose Councillor Lorraine Longford for that, please?
For Finance and General Purposes?
Yes.
I'll second that, Chair.
Any more proposals? And I'll take it to the vote. Well, I don't need to take it to the vote, do I?
Yeah, you should vote.
But I will take it to the vote. So all in favour, please.
That's passed.
HR and Policy Review Committee. I think you have
Can I
Councillor Donovan.
propose Councillor Donovan Craig, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Second that?
I'll second that, Chair.
Yes, I heard you. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Then we'll take that to vote, please. All in favour? Okay, that's. We have the vacancy.
Planning and environment.
No, have I missed that? Oh, we also have planning and environment.
There's now
We have
five.
three vacancies.
We have now five. They're dropping like flies.
So, we have 5 nominees, please, if we can.
You've got 5 vacancies.
We have 5 vacancies.
Councillor Broom.
Yeah, sorry, I took myself off that one before Brindle was diving with a lot of care, and it was either on or it wasn't, and so if you block out time for it, it was a bit disruptive, but now he's passed and there's only a few months to go, when he's got back on it.
So we're putting
Maybe it's not a...
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Who moved that? Motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And nobody else? Okay. So all in favour of that? And finally, I think, do you have any nominees for the allotment steering group? We have 1 vacancy.
I'd like to propose Councillor Jan Gould.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
All in favour? Thank you very much. So,
Neighbourhood plan.
where are we? Oh, gosh, no. We need nominees for the neighbourhood plan steering group. We have 1 vacancy. Anybody want to go on the neighbourhood plan steering group? No? No nominees.
Can I just ask, Town Mayor, are all the other reserves correct? Because I've got on page 31, 32. Before I start making any more amendments to the.
I can't see that there are any more amendments, but I'm
Yeah, okay.
I'm not having these on. Right, item 9, finance matters. That's to note the arrears of receipts and payments for the 31st of October 2022.
That's in page 63.
Are there any comments or observations? Councillor Brindell.
Thank you, Chair. And actually looking through these this evening, and I have to admit that they're in better order than they used to be. So I'm quite happy with the finance figures.
So, is everyone happy with the finance matters? Going through them? Any comments?
Apologies for missing October out. For some reason, what I saw on the screen didn't get printed or didn't get saved. But, thank you. advising me on that before I was embarrassed here by surprise.
We have to allow for this sort of thing because of changeover, because of problems. But this, the figures still add up. But when I come back at next council meeting, you watch what you're
Yeah,
doing.
okay, yeah.
So Helen Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At 275, mayor's costs at £60, I just wondered what that was.
I haven't got the details on that, and I'll have
Sorry,
to-
that's page 35.
I haven't got the detail.
You haven't?
I'll let you know.
So on that one, it comes out of the mayor's allowance. We've never before gone through, what in the 3 years I've been on, gone through what the mayor's allowance is spent on. It's just gone out to the mayor's allowance.
Sorry. Speak
The
up.
same, that one that Councillor Helen Davis brought up, the mayor's cost has come out of the mayor's allowance. And my time on the council, almost 3 years, don't think it's come up before about what it's been spent on. If it has, it's passed me by, I'm afraid.
£60. I have no idea what that's for. Certainly not.
If I may.
Put it on a horse, Jack.
Over the past 3 years, it has come up before.
No,
Right.
And it was kept separate to begin with, or all in one to begin with, and now it seems to have been separated again. And I'm sure that the town clerk will come back with full details of it as soon as possible, because it is confusing. But whatever the situation is here, the finance does add up.
Well, no,
You
totally
need to
unaware of that
approve,
£60.
you need to approve your receipts, the
Yeah.
payments that are made, so that's the sort of strategy there. I'll inform Councillor Helen Davis of the detail for that £60.
Sorry, just to answer, Councillor, the past mayor. I did go to two previous town clerks and said, I feel happier if I gave an itemised
yeah.
indicator of everything that I spent on. She says, that means I have to go through that, each one you do, and then give it to you from the bank. She says that the cost of time for me doing that is actually more than giving you one sum. I know councils will do it, some councils will do it one bit at a time. So that's and it was taken as a gentleman's or gentlewoman's agreement as to how much you should spend
I
on what.
actually think I know what it is now. And why it's suddenly gone on in my my consulate and I were invited to an event for dinner. And I think it's for that. I think it's it was the young trainees, the ATS thing, because that's the only. But I didn't actually was given the money. It was paid out to that they claimed that money back. Councillor Helen Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Am I right in thinking that the mayor's allowance though is £400,
Yes.
and you've drawn on that the full amount of £400?
Yes.
Okay, I'm confused then as to what that mayoral allowance is for.
Because
If it's not for that
I
kind of thing.
was told by previous town clerk that £400 was mine to use for expenses, etc., which I am doing. But this specific invitation, she also said there was an allowance of another £200, which I have not have anything I don't need and have not drawn on for incidentals. And it was told to me that in these circumstances, then the council pays for me to attend that dinner. And that's all I know. I was just doing as I was told. But
I think we need some clarification, definitely. Because I think it's more than just myself. Ross, who's a little confused over it.
yeah,
It's never been made very clear.
well, I have been very, very careful.
Oh, I don't doubt
to,
that.
and I'm just doing as I was, suggested.
Just for the purpose
I'm quite out of pocket with a lot of this.
I'm sure, yeah, just for the purposes of clarity though, Madam Mayor, it would be good to,
Yeah,
to
I understand.
know
I think it
to understand.
would be good to clarify it for people coming after us as well. Councillor Goodall.
To clarify, and I understand exactly what Councillor McMahon Davis is saying, but you got the £400, whatever you do with that, you do with it.
Yeah,
When, and I don't know the rules have been changed, but when I was mayor, what used to happen is if I went to a hall somewhere and the ticket was rather expensive and so was getting there, and the council paid for that, that's on top of the £400. I went to more than one place where it was quite dear, and the council paid for it. And I think, I'm only guessing here, that this £60 is something where you have been to, that the council has paid for. So what it needs to, I would suggest to clarify, is to go back and look at the receipts and see exactly what that money is for, and obviously report back. But I think that's what has happened.
it is what happened. I'm certain of it. Councillor.
Thanks for reminding me, Madam Mayor, of the 400 plus 200 thing, because that triggered something in my head from a number of years ago now, and I think I remember that conversation. But I, like a lot of us, I think, are very fuzzy on the details, and I wonder if we might impose on the town clerk to have a bit of an explanation at the next meeting or when it's convenient as to exactly how this is working. Just so that we all know, because the topic keeps coming up. But once or twice a year, the topic of mayor's expenses comes up, and I think it'd be good to refresh all of our heads on how it actually works.
I'm happy for that.
Can I suggest when I come and present you with your budgets for next year, we identify what these two amounts are, and I'll include some narrative or some words that reflect what the use of the two figures are for.
Brilliant.
Can I propose that we approve the payments?
Yes.
I'll second that.
All in favour? Thank you. Item 10. I'm going to hand it over to our town clerk. We have, I just have to say that we've had some application forms come in for the vacancy of town clerk. And as it's now past the closing date, we will be sorting things out. But I'd like to hand it over to you, because we also have an item here about changing the times to meetings.
Thank you, Darren. We have 5 applications, so 2 came in after I distributed the report on Wednesday. And I've agreed just before the meeting that the line management subcommittee will meet next Tuesday to go through those 5 applications and hopefully produce a shortlist that you can then take forward. The report has got 3 recommendations on it. One is just to clarify the recruitment process that you previously agreed, to giving me delegated authority in consultation with the line management subcommittee and that will come back to an extraordinary meeting of the town council, which I sort of put you on notice will need to be either late next week or very early the following week, potentially, or immediately after we've held interviews. So there needs to be an extraordinary meeting of the town council to deal with that issue fairly quickly and smartly when we've set the interview date. Councillor Grindale wants to say.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring, I'm writing it down. Councillor Grindale.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to clarify here. Previously, things at times that people that were interviewed has not gone exactly the way I thought they would go. I am asking here that any member of this council who knows any person who is interviewing the candidates, that those who are interviewing the candidates do not know the applicant. Because if they do know the applicant, that's not the right way to go about things, as you know. So I want to make sure that no applicant is interviewed at any time. If a councillor knows the applicant, then that councillor should not be sitting on the panel.
Can I say you can't do that? You'll never do that.
You have to declare.
You should declare an interest. As long as the person that you know isn't a close relative, then there is no reason why you can't take place in that interview process. For example, if there was somebody internally who applies for the job, you all know them. You can't excuse yourself from an interview panel, so there wouldn't be anybody to actually be on the panel.
The town authority has to be extremely careful here, because we have had people moaning and groaning about it in the past for many years, not just this last 3 years. And we've got to get things right, haven't we?
As long as you declare that you've got a personal interest at that meeting before we start the interview process, that is sufficient. If it's a close relative, you don't go anywhere near. Okay?
So quite clear to everyone. So can we move on with that, please?
The next two are,
The meetings, are we going to discuss those?
yeah, I'm just going up to them.
Oh, sorry.
There's at least one person that hasn't applied because you're holding meetings on a Friday night. In the spirit of helping you, I think you seriously need to consider whether Friday night is the best night that you should be holding regular council meetings. Potentially, it already has. You haven't got one candidate because they wouldn't want to work regularly on Friday evening, and that may be replicated across other people who have been put on. I said in the report, in my experience, you're almost unique in using Friday nights on a regular basis, and I put that to you to reconsider. That may help you going forward.
I think it was Councillor McCrae first.
Yeah,
Councillor McCrae.
okay, yeah, we spoke about this, I think it was May this year, so it was over 6 months ago. I'm still the same, and I think obviously we've got closer to the end of this administration. There's only, 5-6 months to go, and then it comes to an end. I don't think it's the right time for us to make that decision. I think that should be left to the next administration. In reality, there could be 18 different people sat around this table, 18 different circumstances. At the minute, there is some of us that's dual-hatted. We're quite lucky we've got a person that's three-hatted, if that's a word, or I don't know what you call it. Triple-hatted, there you go. But never mind. But there's also people, myself and I'm sure there's others, that are on other committees for other groups and organisations that are already meeting on different nights and not on a Friday, because we know we meet here at the Town Council on a Friday night. It would cause too much disruption to the councillors that's already here. And I think, same as I said last time, we should just leave it as it is. and then let the next administration decide what they want.
Councillor Brown.
I'd just like to mirror what he says, because we're quite unique in that we've got a fair few people on different councils on this administration. The next one might be different. You just haven't got to like to go to have a disco on Friday. But secondly, some of our meetings have gone on so long that it would affect somebody's working pattern the next day or even work during the week. If you're finishing at 11 o'clock sometimes, you're getting up at 6. Not good.
I'm going before one.
Councillor.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer to move it just because a lot of people work, and I think it's not fair on those that do work full time when we get here on a Friday. You know, it should be the end of the week. Also, I think if we can get a new town clerk in position before the new administration, it would help them, rather than they are still looking for somebody to fill a position. So if that is holding the town council back, I think, you know, we need to at least consider it and look at what could be done.
I remember the debate we had in May about possibly changing the main meeting dates from Friday to Wednesday. And I think, of course, the big argument is about work-life balance now, especially how things have changed over the past 20, 30 years, where especially Friday nights important for families, and also, of course, some people now have more flexible work pattern, possibly only working 4 days a week, so it's more on the weekend for many people for Friday night. I think another point I want to put across, and this was like part of the report that the previous town clerk gave, was about possibly that the meeting day on Fridays doesn't take into consideration about people who pray, who do religious activities on a Friday evening, so that could, as I said, exclude certain people who possibly want to be councillors for this town council next May as well, but because it disrupts their religious prayer, it means they can't actually, that we put off and burn out going forward. And the fact that they even say it is at odds with the Equality Act 2010, which I think is very safe ground if we continue. I think, of course, though, there is only 5 months until the next administration, where people may have a very different viewpoint. They may prefer Friday or prefer Wednesday, prefer any day. But I think I'm very easy to try to strongly encourage the next administration, possibly if a new town clerk comes in, that actually we need to define it. Given what I've heard from the interim town clerk, that it's a weird, quite an abnormal day for a council like us to have meetings on a Friday. I think to actually attract staff, to attract various types of councillors, I think it's better than not to move the Wednesday. Well, to move the end day, I think, out to Friday, as long as the next administration agrees.
Yeah, I think I would be in favour of shifting it, not least because I am one of the people who works full time, and you do not get me at my best on Friday evenings, because by this point I have already done a full week's work. I've done activities in weeknights as well, so by this point I'm tired. And then when we have a meeting, it does go on, it goes on to 9 o'clock. You know, I am at the point where I get to the point where I'm struggling, if I'm honest. I appreciate what people are saying about being double-hatted and triple-hatted. Other town and parish councils do seem to manage it, okay, and they have got councillors on as well. And I get the point what you're saying about if we go on till 9 o'clock and people have got a working day the next day, that would be me. But also, I tend to, you know, as we all are, involved in community projects, and sometimes they are on Saturdays. So we're not actually, we're just shifting the problem. I appreciate that, you know, what we're saying about we're close to the end of the term. So if people want to leave it like that for now, fair enough. But I would press upon people to bear in mind that this probably will change should a new administration come in, and not to like think that this is set in stone on Fridays, because I really don't see why we have to be in this unique position of doing Fridays when nowhere else seems to. Because if borough don't do it, county don't do it, other groups and organisations don't do it, why are we doing it? Okay? Thanks.
Thank you.
Chair, the situation here is since 1999 that I'm aware of, town council's always been on a Friday evening. For the simple reason is that even like now we have our councillors like young Tim here and John and Sue and others are borough councillors, Richard of course. And the point about it is that at the borough council we just don't meet once a month or once every 6 weeks. We have planning, we have scrutiny, we have everything that goes on every night of the week. So the whole point that Stapleford Town Council had their meeting on a Friday because the borough councillors could not attend. And that's the main reason why it was set up like that. It's been set up now 23 years that I'm aware of. You will never get it right, whatever you decide. You'll never get it right unless you call everyone in on a Sunday evening. I don't think anybody wants that. So I think I would second Councillor Richard McRae's proposal for the simple reason it should be left to the next administration, whoever the case may be.
I'm just looking at this, and I know we've got, we're going to be having an extraordinary meeting about this after the interviews process has gone ahead. Is this something that we could talk about in general with that? If we do have a new town clerk appointed around that time, discuss it and have them made aware that coming forward there is a possible proposal, especially for the new council, to look at how they would prefer to have their meetings. If we have a town clerk come in for the next couple of meetings that we've got coming ahead that's willing to do the Fridays for those final 2 meetings and committees that we've got, we can keep it at that. But as a going forward, as essentially a handover to the new council, this is what we have been looking at and putting through in discussion. It isn't necessarily set in stone, it's down to the individual council for that term to come to their mutual agreement on what suits them best for their meetings, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. I think I'm going to, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was being subtle. I didn't want to didn't want to get in everybody else's way. This is obviously going to come down to the vote. There are as many diverse opinions around the table as there are days of the week, and then double it. So it really is. The reason, as I see it, that this is a topic again at the moment is because of recruitment. But from what the town clerk's told us, we've got 5 applicants for a position, knowing full well that the meetings are on Friday, and only one known person that didn't want to do it because it's on a Friday. We can't assume that is putting people off en masse. There are some people that choose to work Friday evening. I mean, crikey, poor Mrs. Councillor Ham had to deal with leaving a council meeting up until recently, where you changed employers. There's leaving a council meeting and going to work for a night shift. Everybody's got pros and cons to this. My personal opinion, I really don't care, but it's too late in the day to change it. Why upset the apple cart? We've not got long until Purda. Let's just do what we know works and let the next administration do what works for them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And then,
I was going to say, well, that's 5 applicants, even just on a Friday. And I think all of us as councillors sort of guessed how much time it will take and when it takes place. So, yeah, it could be that, as you say, that the next lot may not be in the borough, county at all, so it might not mind it tonight. On the point of religion, although the recent census has put us down that we're not all Christian anymore, I know in the hospital we have a lot of Muslim members. Prayer takes place in the middle of the day, that's the most important time. In fact, you won't find a Muslim doctor or nurse for at least an hour while prayer takes place, everybody else covers for it. But as we're still got a Christian focus, it will be, although we've joked about working on a Sunday, we'd never work on a Sunday, but yeah, the future might be totally different as to where we work again.
I'm going to put this out for a vote because there are different opinions. So I'm going to propose this.
Chair, if I may, it's already been proposed by Councillor McCrae, and I seconded it.
So then it's been proposed and seconded, so I will move it to the vote. All in favour?
Yes.
I think, just to clarify, was it that Richard proposed to keep it on the same day?
Keep it as it
The
is
same
now,
status.
with the, what's it, with the next administration, because that is important, because like I said, you know, it could be 18 different people, couldn't it? And that is the reality of it. It is up to them for their term, isn't it? Whoever they make their call.
So the proposal is that we, and it's been seconded, that we keep to the Friday evenings for full council. So,
Well, for the council meetings that you've got, so it's not just for councillors on the
oh,
Friday. The council meetings
Yes.
on the Friday,
but the,
in the generic
yeah.
sense.
So, I'll move to the vote, please. All in favour? Against?
Fine.
So it's, carried. So,
I'll move on to the last bit, if I may.
yeah,
I'm bringing these to you because I'm challenging you in the nicest possible way. But the next point is linked to the previous one. And in one sense, it's perhaps more important, potentially, because certainly what I've found since I've been here is that there's too much, you are taking up too much time of whoever is doing the town clerk job in just getting and preparing agendas, attending meetings, and that bureaucracy. Where if you bring that together into a small number of meetings, then you're going to make some more effective use of the resource of the town clerk that you've got going forward. And I've put a suggestion there within the report that, in my view, or my advice to you is that you really need to rationalise it. And I get the point about, you've got 5 months after the administration, and there will be a new council coming through in May. But I really think you need to give serious consideration to this.
Councillor Kerr, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I was going to say, basically same as I said last time, because I think we've just approved putting different councillors on different committees and whatnot. Again, if we put all this together, it's going to create like a super meeting. It sounds a bit like Nottingham and Derby joining together. That meeting will probably go to 2 in the morning because sometimes there's absolutely tons of stuff on it. I mean, obviously, the planning and climate one, we could probably get rid of that because we obviously cured the climate problem because we went to a meeting for ages. And the planning, that all big decisions used to go to full council. That does make it easier. I did agree with that ages ago. And then the smaller ones was done like in I don't know what you call it, in conjunction with let's say the leader and the mayor. I can't remember what the words was. And at the end of the day, it is Broxton that make the decisions. Yes, Stapleford should have a say on plan, and of course they should. That we're here to represent the people of Stapleford. But I think when the town council write in, it's only the same as, I don't know, my mum writing in, for example, or someone else. So if individual councillors want to write in, because every application that somebody puts forward is the most important thing to that person, it's nice that councillors can represent them. If it's something controversial or big or that's been asked to be called in, yes, it should come to the committee. But other than that, I think just saying, oh, someone's having an extension on the back garden and it's a door, that's just wasting time because you're sitting there for the sake of it. I'll just, again, my proposal on that would be leave it the same as it is and let the next administration decide if they want to change it.
Councillor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did some adding up, and I'm not brilliant at this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but putting those three big committees together would constitute 14. Sorry, as it stands, that represents 14 meetings per year, and it's suggested that you put them all together and have 12. And to my mind, that doesn't make a substantial amount of difference, apart from those 12 meetings become very large, very unruly, not very specialised. People are making decisions, councillors who attended those will be making decisions, therefore, voting on things that they haven't chosen as their specialism. I think that to be taken into account.
I just want to be there.
Oh, go on.
It's just, would it be 10 meetings instead of 12 because there's no meetings in August and December?
Yes, that is potential. Yeah.
He is right, though.
No, you're right. I love it. Yeah. So, sorry, I missed my final point, but now I can tell you. Thank you. So, an alternative way of looking at it, keeping the committees separate, which I think would be a better option, but streamlining them if it was necessary to bring that number down from 14 or. Yeah, I lost my thread a bit. Just looking, for example, at Arts, Events and Heritage, you've got 2 meetings in February, March. They're only a month apart, and it's a strange time of year for that anyway, because I would suggest that's one that could go, bringing that total down a little from 5 to 4. Similarly with finance, you've got 2 quite close together in October. Oh, sorry, end of October, middle of October, beginning of November. They could be consolidated somewhat. That's a way of, and let's face it, actually, I was going to say that the meeting that I just mentioned for the 14th of October was cancelled anyway, possibly even for that reason. There wasn't enough business to post it or to shift it on to the next one. Similarly to what I'm sure Arts, Events and Heritage has probably cancelled at least one, possibly for that reason. So you see what I mean, that by each committee rationalising what time of year their business would be done best would be a way of bringing that total down, probably to the equivalent of 11 or 12 or less.
Okay, so the reason why we went to the committee structure, if people remember way back when, was we were having council meetings that went on for 4 hours at one point with full council. And it was decided that we just weren't meeting often enough, because I think at that point it's every 6 to 8 weeks. So I think we met so many times a year. And obviously with a new administration, new ideas, there was a lot of updating to do. And the system that we had wasn't working, which is why we brought in the committees with delegated authorities, so that smaller decisions could be made by a group of people. It wasn't an efficiency thing, so I agree with Councillor Helen Davis that there was people with a specific interest or knowledge base who worked on particular committees. And the thing I kind of like about committees is it's a slightly less formal thing, because it is easier to have a to and fro dialogue, because trying to have a debate with 18 of us around the table isn't really conducive with that, because you get things going on a tangent and around if different people want to make a different point. So the reason for having the committees was to take on what we wanted to do and tackle it. Obviously, we're kind of in the final death throes of this administration, and we are in a finishing off point of what we want to do. I am minded, to kind of think, okay, there are some committees that are sort of wrapped up to a certain extent, because I know the HR committee has done a lot of work on bringing forward policies that just weren't in place, because I think the big things that we had to do were the parental leave things. We did a lot of work on social media policies, because those are things that we just didn't have here in the past. And those committees were important in bringing those things up to speed. But a lot of that work has been now done and is complete, and it's just a case of reviewing periodically to make sure that things don't get quite so stale. So in that respect, the HR committee could wind down a bit. We don't probably need that many. I take the points about the climate emergency stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't had time to do it, I'll be honest. Part of me when I became a councillor was to work on environmental projects, and I did not anticipate being leader. I put myself up for it, it's my own stupid fault. But consequently, having been involved in things like finance, HR, I am on every committee just about, and I chair 2 of them, and it was just a bit too much, okay? I'll be honest. And also, I take the points about the planning side of it. We do look at them, and I do periodically, when we do make a judgment call of like, is there anything? So I do actually look at the planning applications weekly as they come in and make a call as to whether or not we have planning committees or not. So there's a lot of the planning committees, as you know, have been cancelled and just haven't happened because there isn't enough business, okay? I would say the one that really is probably important to keep going is the arts, events and heritage, because we do have things to wrap up on that. We do have also running up to the election a King's coronation to plan. And then there's bits and bobs to tidy up that are still on that agenda. So I think if anything, it's the arts, events and heritage is probably the most pressing. And what's the other one that I've missed off? I know there's another finance. Oh yeah, finance. How could I have forgotten finance? Obviously, there's going to be some work to do with budget, but a lot of that will be taken up at full council. So depending on if, again, and we're wrapping things up, not accelerating things. So I am happy to reduce the number of finance meetings and have them as they are needed, if that is better and easier. The other thing I'm thinking of though is when I came into being a councillor, first off, I remember how weird it was because certain things were already in motion that we had to do because they were historic, and then there was things that we wanted to do, and I'm not sure that the meeting structure of having committees would necessarily be that useful for a council that's newly formed. They probably want to think about what committees they want going forward, or whether they want to start off as full council for the first few months, and then when they know what they want the committees to do, think about it from that point onwards. So I do think that we should maybe streamline the committee meetings that we've got scheduled between now and May, and think about whether they're absolutely necessary, and then sort of leave it for the next administration. But I think the structure as it is, I'd be loath to get rid of the committees entirely, because I think they're useful perhaps for the next administration when they work out what they want to do, to rejig and restructure what they want. So that's what I think. I would, if you want me to form that into a proposal, I'll try and engage brain.
I was going to say, obviously, my proposal I made there, I would kind of do the same thing. So it's leave it as it is, but if meetings need to be cancelled as and when, because that's kind of what we're doing, isn't it? Then they can be. So, and that's how we do it now anyway, isn't it?
So can we propose?
That's what my proposal is, yeah.
That's your proposal.
Thank you. It's clarification really I'm looking for here, Dan Clark. Is that you just said, Teresa, about the king being crowned. Okay. Now you know as well as I do. Elections on the 4th of May. The king's being crowned on the 6th of May. If you're going to plan something, you have to do it before a certain date. Am I correct, Dan Clark?
Yes. as part of your budget setting for next year, if you want to make provision, then you need to put that into your budget that you approve in January, February time. And that will go ahead as you plan it, because in reality there won't be a new county council in place until after the coronation. There's a bit of uncertainty as to when councillors leave office now, because it's a bank holiday. It's usually 4 days after the election.
Actually, if I may, to help you, normally the town council starts its administration 2 days after borough council. Borough council is on the 17th of May.
Sorry, councillor, it's when you leave office individually, and when new councillors take up office.
Absolutely.
And you leave office 4 days after the election.
Yeah.
New councillors take up office 4 days after the election. It's the swap over of old to new councillors. What I'm saying to you is that may be different next year, because of the bank holiday on the Monday now. I've already asked the returning officer or the elections officer when they are going to advise borough councillors as to when that handover takes place. They don't know the answer at the minute.
Well, actually, I do have a date, but I'm not going to spread it around just like that at the moment. But as I said to you, that normally 2 days after the borough, and then this administration takes.
Yeah, that's the annual meeting of the borough council.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the annual meeting of the borough council. I'm talking about when individual councillors take office.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They've got to come in and sign the paper.
I think we're probably most of us are in agreement. So I think there's a general consensus I can feel in the room, and I was wondering, Madam Mayor, if we can take it to the vote.
I just want Councillor McRae to speak because he's having.
I was going to say the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the proposal is that I'm not exactly sure now what the second is.
I think it's retaining the committees that you've got, but rationalise them.
Yeah. For the next.
You need someone to second it.
Yes. So everybody wants a second.
Yeah.
So it's seconded. So can we move to vote, please? All in favour?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can you just repeat it? I think people were coughing and I missed some of the proposals.
Right. The proposal is that we leave things as they are for the time being, right? And probably wait for the next administration to change things if necessary. But we're going to leave things.
But they can be streamlined if we create as and when.
Streamline them.
But we are streamlining.
Yeah.
If not required.
If they're not required. So we can please move to the vote. And if it's all in favour, yes. Fine. Right. Thank you very much.
Did we do anything as a result of this recommendation A of the clerk's report?
Good spot.
Did we not vote for it?
We didn't.
No, you've not voted on that.
I haven't been voted on.
The clarification of the interview process.
I propose we accept it as it's written. It's like one extra word.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
Just make that.
Quite right.
All in favour?
All in favour. Thank you. So, item 11, motion. Would you like to read this out? Would I read it out? You don't have to. I can read it out if you like. Thank you. A motion has been submitted under paragraph 9 of the Town Council's standing orders. It is moved by Councillor Donna McRae and seconded by Councillor Lorraine Dongford. It relates to the condition and use of Stapleford Cemetery Chapel. Some background information is attached, and you'll find that as Appendix 2, page 37. The motion is that Stapleford Town Council resolves to make further inquiries into what is required to become a partner with other groups and organisations, such as Broxton Borough Council and Bramcote Crematorium, to help secure the future of Stapleford Cemetery Chapel. A full report and presentations to be brought to a future meeting of full council. So that is the motion and the proposal. It's been seconded. Can we move that to debate?
Councillor McRae should really start the debate.
The reason why I brought it is I had a lady who talked to me and she was telling me that when she goes to visit her mum at the grave, right at the very top, when it rains, it floods. So her mum's grave is underwater. And she says in summer it's fine, she can go sit on the bench, but in winter there is nowhere for her to go and sit. And she said that the bell had been restored, so why couldn't the chapel, so people could go and just sit and reflect, have a private prayer, things like that. And I said, well, I can ask, and that's what I'm doing. And if you've been in, it could be beautiful. It could be made to be beautiful again. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Councillor.
Well, to be honest, I am for this, and I think Teresa and we want to do a number of things with the chapel for wedding venues and this, that, and the other. I think what we need to do is, as you've said, we want a proper report from the borough, right, to see, again, like we've all said, some of us might not be here in May, but I think going forward as the town council, right, I think, yes, we do need to improve that, especially the graveyard, as I pointed out earlier. They want some land, they want to extend the graveyard at the top, or that's what they want to do, and that was proposed years ago, Donny, but they want to go further up Taylor's Field, right? So ideally, something like this, you could incorporate into when the borough are doing that, because like you say, a lot of people just go up there and relax, because it's not a bad looking cemetery, right? But it is somewhere to relax and be out of the way. And yeah, I think what we need to do is look at it again, proper, speak to the right people at the borough. But as we pass a motion, does that mean we'll look at it now, or we'll pass it forward to the borough now?
Yeah, obviously, I don't know whether this is on the borough's radar or not, but it's not something we can do internally without really the support.
Without report coming back out, and that's right.
I certainly think that we need to bring this up. I think it's a good thing for us to do. Councillor Craig, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to think which one we're talking to now, don't I?
Well, I heard.
I'm the prettier one. I mean, reading this, some of us have been inside. I think quite a few of us have been in and looking there, and it was a building that was given to the people of Stapleford. Let's try and keep it in Stapleford, and it really does look like the one in Ilkeston as well, doesn't it? If you ever drive along, is it Park Road, whatever it's called? It looks very similar there, and it might be the same plans, who knows, as was given to us. And it says on here, on page 39, about the toilets, there's a little picture at the top. If you could picture that picture, that's looking from the bottom looking up. The door on the left is where you go in now, and then to the left of that is where the road goes through the middle. That would be boarded up, and that would become the toilet. The other end where it says windows bricked up, that would become a new door to go in, and there could be like a kitchenette thing in there as well. But this is all the stuff that could come back in a full report. This is what we need, isn't it? We need this more information. So I think all we're saying here is do we think it's a good idea? Because more information could come back, and you read it and you go, that's no good, we don't want to play that game. but we need that information, don't we? And that's basically what we need. So I support it, same as John, there's Councillor McGrath there. And it was really interesting years ago to see the bell be restored and taken down and put back up and ding at random times in the afternoon when it goes out to sing. It's quite funny. But it would be nice to see a building like that. It says here, it's on the at-risk register. But we don't want anything at risk at all, do we? So if we can do anything, whether it's working with others, whatever, to get things off an at-risk register, especially such a lovely building that was given to us many years ago. You know, let's keep it there for many generations to come to enjoy it and open it again, because, like I said, quite a few of us in this room have been in there. If there's anybody in here that hasn't been in and you want to have a look, let me know and I can sort that out so you can come in and have a look. It's an interesting building. Let's get it open so the rest of the community and the wider community can go in and enjoy what some of us have been looking to see.
Yeah, I think I actually went inside at the same time as you and Sabrina and Sue, Richard. I remember us going in. It was an interesting discussion because it is obviously the property of the borough and they are maintaining it, and it does need quite a bit of work doing to it. And we talked about the funding streams, and I think borough had pretty much exhausted the funding streams that they could go for. So we did talk about, are there funding streams that the council could apply for as the town council, but because we don't own it, it is limited, right, what we can actually do here. I would like to see it restored because it is beautiful inside, and we did talk about potential uses for it. And I think you did put something out on Facebook, didn't you, Richard, about groups that might be interested in being involved with it, because we did talk about the crematorium and things. I think you put something out about, I'm pretty sure you did, about at the time.
I can't remember.
Yeah, asking for people to get who were going to get involved in it. I presume we didn't get much back at that point.
Well, we loosely set up a thing called Friends of Sacred Cemetery, which was ages and ages ago. And it wasn't anything official, no constitution. It was basically people that got an interest in the grounds turned up and litter picking. We just had to have a name for paperwork for the council. There is an interest in the place,
But if I can just come back, because I mean, obviously, a lot of the discussion that we've had tonight is, you know, with this council disappearing in May in its current form, is this setting up a rod for somebody's back if they're not going to keep working with it? So I would like to see this happen, but I'm wondering, could we tie this in with the ongoing project that we've got about the Heritage Trail and maybe link it in with that rather than as part of that Heritage Trail, engage with the borough to put forward a report, because I'm conscious that we're putting extra work on the staff who are currently trying to hand over to a new clerk who was obviously going to need training, and I just think that this is another added thing that we don't necessarily want to put on new staff straight away as they come in, when we've said we're trying to tie things up. So I'm thinking that we add this to the Arts and Events and Heritage Committee and get them to look at it as part of their Heritage Trail, which I think is already an ongoing project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a bit of a tricky one. It's something I would like to see, obviously, but it all comes down to two things first. One, we need to know what the borough wishes to upgrade it and do with it before we can even get involved. Now, once we know what the borough wishes to do and we can put the ideas into them, is absolutely brilliant. To extend it for a crematorium, we're going to have a job. The simple reason, a lot of money is going to be spent at the crematorium, at our crematorium, Roxwood Crematorium, and an extension is going to be built. But I think that one is, I like the design. Two is, we back in 20, whenever it was, we actually spent £7,500 on getting the bell done, which the town council did, which is absolutely brilliant. I think we've got to start from scratch and see what the borough are interested in. Then let us put forward what we would like to see and other groups would like to see. It's going to be a long project and it's going to be extremely expensive project. This town council hasn't got enough money in the bank to be able to do what we would all would like to see to be done.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building. We did go in and put some really nice photographs in, and I've took some beautiful photographs outside of it. I agree. I'd like to be able to write to the borough for more information of what they've got plans, if there's any funding or anything, what their plans are with it. I also agree, we've just started winding down things. We've actually only got 2 meetings left of this council. So if we could get a report or even defer this, I know it's like been ages, people trying to get something done there, but I think we've got to be careful of the decisions we make at the moment when we know there's a new administration coming in May. To get a report back is going to take a while anyway, because the cogs move really slowly. In principle, I agree, and in May, if whoever's around this table, I would hope they would support it.
So I mainly agree with points based on Spassy Council and this. I do think it's important to renovate this capital. My 2 biggest concerns though are, and it's more to get garner information from the other organisations. First of all, the money required to renovate the chapel, especially as it's explained to this building. That could be quite a significant cost, I would imagine. Most importantly, we need to find out how much would the town council be attracted essentially into spending to contribute. As I've heard earlier, Broxton seems to have already exhausted its budget for this chapel, which is probably my biggest concern is if they try like the council or the groups try to force the town council to spend such a significant amount of money, and that could possibly threaten the financial stability of the council. And we just need to, I think that's going to be key, finding out how much money it will cost and how much money we can find from other councils, especially Broxton, other groups, maybe even Nottinghamshire County Council, just putting it out there. But I think I would also, the second thing is also, of course, exactly slightly, it's just how it will link to administration post the May elections. I think it's a good idea for the council leading to link it to the heritage trails, and it needs its more continuous as a project, along with many other ideas using the council. It'll probably make it easier for the councillors coming in to understand the policies that we were trying to promote during past administration.
I think we're probably all of a mind. My first thought, and I spoke to Councillor Don McRae about this, and I said, look, I'm dubious because what is the financial commitment? What would we potentially be committing to in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of staff, all of which we don't have a massive wad of at the moment. It's but I've reread it subsequently. I mean, I again, principally, I'm all for this. I'm not particularly bothered about whether something is or isn't a chapel, being not of the God-fearing persuasion, but it's a heritage asset, and I think it's important to maintain those and preferably bring them back into use. I do think the borough is in a better position to deliver this because it has the ability to lay its hands on larger sums and has the expertise in-house to deal with capital projects, which Stapleford Town Council doesn't. But I also understand that informally, the borough is interested in having a partner, more because once a building's, and I've seen this a number of times, once a building's refurbed, it becomes, well, okay, who's going to operate the building? And the borough are not in a position that it necessarily wants to take on any staff to do that, or have somebody tripping over from Beeston to unlock a building to go back over to Beeston or Kimberley Depot or something like that. So maybe this is what I understand informally, is that is the level of interest that the borough have, is that they're looking for a partner after the capital works to actually operate it for the community. Now, I wouldn't want to make any commitments on this, but I think that the wording of the motion is only an expression of interest, and I think that we could take this motion and our votes tonight, if it's affirmative, and present it to Ruth Hyde and say pass that on to whatever department might want to put this on file for when we're ready to move on this project, so that the borough know. For all we know, they might be holding off on doing this, saying, well, if we refurb it right now, we've got nobody to operate it. They might have hammers and screwdrivers in hand. So we could actually just pass this motion as it is, just communicate that we have had this vote at the town council, communicate it to the borough, leave the ball in their court. That would be what I'd like to see happen, actually.
Okay.
Can I just
Sorry.
point out, your standing orders only permit people to speak once on a motion.
The discretion of the chair.
Councillor McCray and Councillor McGrath have already spoken. And that's for you down there.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it said, sorry, yeah, exactly what Tim said. It says in here, state for the town council resolves to make further inquiries. So every question that's been asked needs to be asked. An officer would be more than happy to come and stand in here, whether it was, it could be an extraordinary meeting of whatever, council, or someone like to come along, or perhaps say, if we're asking for more information, does it need to be a formal meeting or an informal meeting where anyone that's interested wants to come and listen? Would that kind of work? It just says here, a full report presentation to be brought to a future meeting of full council. I know that could be as early as February.
Well, three things that I've picked up. Right, obviously, it's a good motion. I think we need to look at two things here. First thing, to start the ball rolling, as you said, Tim, we need to be talking to our estates, right? The estates who own the chapel. The first thing we need to be doing is talking to them and see what value A they've got on it. B, are they willing to go into partnership? But by moving the ball rolling, we need to get them here to speak to us as well. So the motion, I think, needs a bit more tweaking. Sorry, I'm over there like this neither. So it just needs a bit more tweaking, but I'm willing to get to the vote. The other thing that we've all missed on, the Heritage Trail in particular, that's what the Mini Hollands are about as well. Right? And there's an awful, and I'm not boosting it up, but there's a lot of money there. That trail by the chapel up over the top to Brancote Ridge that leads you along up to Hemlockstone and all that, that can be pulled in to get us some funding there. I mean, these are the things that we should all look at together, right? There's one for you there, straight up there, chapel there. Even if they give you, 50 grand, it's towards it, and they're working with the borough there. You've got Bob's Rock at the top, which I said earlier, which is another heritage site. So they're the things that we can pull at, and I think we just need to probably tweak the motion a bit, bring it back. I don't know how easy, because I vote for it now, but I just think professionally wise, it just probably needs a bit more tweaking to make them stand up and say, yeah, you mean you want to do it, we'll do it. And then with the other bits of information that we can use in the next few weeks, putting it at the Mini Holland and saying this and saying that, they'll go away and say, yeah, well, I don't know, I mean, it's just an idea. But definitely, it is a good idea with the heritage trail and all that. We just need to get on with it. And then, if there is another administration, which I'm sure there will be, the borough might be different, everything might be different. But at least it's there in stone. So set it right and make it right before we either all go or we all stay. So, I don't know where we stand there.
Until it's been amended. Has everyone finished now?
I get the sense that there's general support
There is general support.
for the motion and what the motion is, the intention of the motion to bring this building back into use. From my perspective, I think the motion as it is enough. But what I write to Croxo Borough Council can include all of these ideas that you've discussed, because you can't really go any further forward without actually engaging with Croxo Borough Council. And if you like, put in the onus on them. Come on, there's a building that needs something doing to it. What are you going to do? We want to work with you. What are you going to do? And then bring it back to another meeting, whatever, whether this is the full town council meeting or a special meeting, so that you can explore ideas further with them. And I've listened to what people have said. It sounds as though there's a bit of an open door there with Croxo Borough Council. So you may be all, going along the same path in that sense. But if you're happy with that, I think the motion as it is sufficient to move the thing forward. Rather than, if you try and start amending it, you get into horrible.
Yeah, well, I didn't really want to. I mean, I was just saying, Donna and Lorraine, if they are happy with that, let's just get on with it.
Yeah. So councillors, the two councillors that have proposed this motion, are you happy that we go ahead and send this in as it is? Can we take a vote on that? I mean, I don't think it's necessary really, but you've proposed it, you've seconded it. I think all of us, without question, are in favour of this. We don't want to lose it. It's a good thing.
Question it anyway. I'll stick my hand up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So, that's what we're doing. So you can put your hand up now if you want.
Thank you.
Is
that we in favour?
Okay, well, if there's no other business.
Next meeting.
Are we done that? Oh, okay. Sorry,
Merry Christmas, everyone. Don't forget Boxing Day, Bobby and
I won't be here on the 27th of next meeting. I don't know.
So, thank you very much, everybody. Before we go,
Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor has not closed the meeting yet.
right. I'm about to close the meeting, but I'll first give you the time and date of our next meeting, which is the 27th of January 2023 at 7 o'clock. And with that, I'll close the meeting and say thank you very much. And well done.
Thank you.
That's all right then, Tim.
Being down, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Little one gets weird on the floor. You've got two smokers in the house, back doors open periodically. She'll get them out. Have a wander around the garden, come back in, then go, oh, I need to eat, just at the moment, and then it's got the back door open. Hunt is a big oak, and he acts on big, he's really clever. Acts really clever, but she's actually dumb as a brick, she really is. Yeah, so, right, nicotine. Wait, mate.
Okay, so put it on.
Thank you.
All right, not very.
You can have it in writing, but
It's still online.
Yeah, hang on, Ross, hang on.
Yeah, please.
I didn't sign it.
yes,
How does it feel?